Welcome back. It's time for 3 rounds here with Robin Black as we look ahead to UFC cards coming up this weekend. We're going to start looking at The Ultimate Fighter. This was the season where it was supposed to be a real shot in the arm for the series, having the straw weights to crown the first champion at 115 pounds. How would you assess this season, Robin? I mean, was it a home run? Was it a strikeout? I kind of am right in the middle. It seemed to have a lot of interest at the beginning, and now that we're at the end of it, it was a fine season, but I don't think it was necessarily the home run everyone envisioned.
Yeah, I think the UFC right now has, 3, 4, 5, 6 different ideas and different factions going on. It's like there's people who love the idea of the women, and there's people who love the drama, and there's people who love Twitter wars, and there's people who don't like the fact that celebrities will, with O&O records, will fight on main cards. There's all these different factions, and if one doesn't hurt the other, it's good. And in this case, I don't think adding these pretty interesting, talented 115-pound women negatively affected the UFC in any way. I think all of the payoff for it was positive. Did I watch this season? I really didn't. There's only so much fighting you can consume, and I try to consume the highest level fighting. But I know a lot of people dug it. A lot of my friends watch it and enjoy it. So I don't see any downside from it, and I think that they built a bit of an audience for it.
Now, what's interesting is usually it's around April where they will start the next domestic season. There have been no tryouts so far, nothing about coaches. Do you think that there's a chance that we might be at least taking a break, at least from the domestic version, and maybe just going to international markets with The Ultimate Fighter, where it is still viable as kind of a footprint in a new marketplace, getting on TV there and finding talent from that region?
I think that's its purpose today. I think the idea, no show lasts forever. I mean, MASH ran for a million years and then, it was canceled. Every show that is popular will run for a while and get canceled. Reality TV has become a mainstay in television and entertainment, but I don't think it creates a ton of excitement anymore. Whether you turn over to Ink Master on Spike or The Ultimate Fighter on Fox or whatever, or The Biggest Loser, we kind of know the vibe of all this stuff. And so I don't know that domestically it is that big a deal anymore, but it still works internationally.
A few positives. I really like the fact that they did the rankings on the show. I think that gave the show some structure. And at the end of the day, a champion's going to be crowned on Friday night, and I think that's important, that if you invested in this season, and even if you weren't watching, there's something important to watch on the finale beyond just a contract being handed out. We fast forward to Saturday night, where they return to Fox in Phoenix, and certainly a big focus on the heavyweight division, starting off with Junior Dos Santos, who's in a really tricky spot in that weight class. I think most would say the #2 heavyweight in the world, but at this point, nowhere near ready for a title fight. At least he's not going to get one, I think, with a win. And Stipe Miocic, I mean, his last outing was against a light heavyweight and Fabio Maldonado. So some interesting matchmaking here with Miocic and what you do with him after.
If Miocic can win this fight, he's on the track. We need heavyweight contenders. If he can go and knock off the #2 guy in the world, he makes a lot of sense being a fight away from fighting Cain Velasquez or Verdum or who's ever at the top. But can he win it? I don't know. What I find the most interesting about this fight is, can Junior Dos Santos show that he's more than a boxer? Can he show that he has more than just heavy hand combinations? Because that's exciting. It's going to make him a lot of money. It's going to get him a lot of fans. But if he really wants to go back and compete against Cain Velasquez again, I think he needs to blow our minds with his wrestling, ground and pound, maybe even submission game, where we go, oh, okay, this is a different guy. Because if he just goes out and knocks a guy out, we'll go, yeah, right, he can do that. I remember that. And then he lost to Cain twice really badly. But if he becomes a little different fighter, I think we might slowly entertain the idea of him fighting for the title again.
Yeah, and it's been a long time away for Junior Dos Santos, and I think reinventing himself. Do you think it's possible? Can this guy at this stage of his career change things around to such a dramatic degree after, the last 2 Velasquez fights, those were shutouts for Cain?
Yeah, he got beat up pretty good in those. It's a big question. Is like, first of all, can somebody add elite world-class skill sets in something that they've been a 6 or a 7 out of 10? The answer is probably yes, but it requires such huge commitment. And out of Dos Santos' camp, we heard rumblings that he would bring in good wrestlers and then just spar with them on the feet. Things like that. So does the guy and also, when you're really, really good at something, you want to do that thing all the time. So you end up boxing every day in the gym. So can he do it? It is definitely possible, but would I bank my money on it? I'm not sure.
let's stay in the heavyweight division because Alistair Overeem, who no matter how many losses this guy might have or, you know, potential that we don't see really being met inside of the UFC, there always is that interest level with this guy because you never know what version of Alistair Overeem we're going to see. And he's taking on Stefan Struve, who's got his own question marks after that heart condition. It's amazing this man is able to fight again. We haven't seen him since March of 2013, so a big time away for Stefan Struve. We always say, is it do or die for Alistair Overeem? I'm not really thinking that this guy's getting cut anytime soon while Bellator's running big shows. But nonetheless, I think this has certainly got some interest. And for a Fox card, it's a great fight to have.
It may not be do or die for Overeem, but it's like do or just like, you know, or get off the pot. You know what I mean? It's like you got a guy who's recovering from illness. You got a guy who was knocked out in his last fight. In his last one, he had an anxiety attack. He's smaller and he's thinner. He hasn't fully developed into that big, powerful heavyweight yet. You got to knock this guy out. And Overeem's not making it any easier for himself. It's hard to knock out a guy in the first minute or so, but to tell him that's your plan, he's going to be all about footwork and mobility and movement and his jab. I mean, Overeem never really seems to make it easy on himself. If he goes and he knocks out Struve, we all go, okay, Overeem got himself a win. But if Struve goes in there and says, hey, I'm back and I'm serious and I came here to submit Alistair Overeem, who knows? It's an interesting fight, though.
And let's quickly touch upon Nate Diaz. He's back after 13 months. Rafael dos Anjos in this fight, I think a very interesting lightweight fight, and Nate Diaz not being given any easy task here, and an underdog going into this one.
Yeah, the technical comparisons of this one are fascinating. Dos Anjos has developed into a real solid all-around MMA fighter, and Diaz is a lunatic, and he's very, very fun to watch.
And that is coming up this Saturday night as the UFC returns to Fox, and we are coming back with more, including this week's viral video, as we continue on Fight News Now.
My name's Jeff Bill. I like to party. This is a lemon. These are my eyeballs. And this video is called Lemon Balls. Squeeze. Lemons. Oh! Ah!